60 miles off the coast of California, battered by the open Pacific, lies a barren strip of land called San Nicolas Island. Today it's little more than windswept cliffs and scattered shrubs. But nearly 200 years ago, this island was the setting of one of the strangest survival stories in American history, when one woman was left completely alone here for 18 years, with no idea if anyone would ever come back for her. This is the story of Juana Maria. Long before any foreign ship reached its shores, San Nicolas Island was home to the Nicolino, a small tribe of expert seafarers and hunters who had built a life in one of the harshest environments on the Pacific coast. They lived in homes framed with whalebone, fished from wooden plank canoes, and hunted seals, otters, and seabirds. Their population likely never numbered more than a few hundred, but their culture, language, and traditions ran deep. Somewhere within that community was a young woman whose real name has been lost to history. The name we know her by today, Juana Maria, was given to her decades later by Spanish missionaries. In the early 1800s, the isolation that had protected the Nicolino for generations began to break down. Spanish explorers charted the coastline first, followed by traders and missionaries. Then came Russian and Aleut hunters, chasing the enormous profits available in the sea otter fur trade. At first, contact was distant and cautious, but as the hunters grew bolder, they began competing directly with the Nicolino for the same otters and seals the tribe had relied on for centuries. Tension turned into open conflict. In 1814, that conflict exploded into violence. Historical accounts describe raiding parties of fur hunters attacking the island, killing dozens of Nicolino and burning their village. The population, already small, was gutted almost overnight. Juana Maria survived, but she lost nearly everyone she had ever known. In the years that followed, only a handful of Nicolino remained on the island at all. By 1835, Mexican authorities decided the surviving Nicolino needed to be evacuated entirely, both to protect them from further attacks and to bring them into mission life on the mainland. A ship called the Piores Nada was sent to retrieve them. The evacuation was rushed and chaotic. Families were hurried aboard with whatever belongings they could carry. In the confusion, one woman was left behind. Accounts differ on exactly why. Some say she jumped from the ship after realizing a child was missing and swam back to shore. Others say she was simply overlooked in the chaos and the ship, caught in worsening weather, never turned back for her. Whatever the reason, Juana Maria was now completely alone on San Nicolas Island, and no one would return for her for 18 years. The first weeks would have been the most dangerous. She searched the ruins of her destroyed village, scavenging tools, dried fish, and sealskins left behind. She had to relearn, alone, which plants were safe to eat and which could be used as medicine, and she built simple shelters out of driftwood and whalebone salvaged from the wreckage of her people's old life. Every mistake now carried the full weight of survival. Over time, she became something closer to a permanent part of the island itself. She learned to read the tides, track the migration of seabirds, and predict incoming storms by watching the behavior of seals along the shoreline. Her diet consisted almost entirely of seal and sea lion meat, supplemented with shellfish, bird eggs, and edible roots. She fashioned harpoons, knives, and fishing tools from bone, stone, and driftwood, turning the remnants of a vanished village into the tools that kept her alive. Shelter was a constant project. She built small huts using whalebone framing, insulated with moss and seaweed, positioned carefully against the wind. Fresh water had to be located and stored. Food had to be dried and rationed through the leaner winter months. Every structure she built was rebuilt again after storms tore through it, over and over, for nearly 2 decades. But the physical survival wasn't the hardest part. The isolation was total. There was no one to speak to, no one to confirm she wasn't losing her mind, no one who understood a single word of her language. Some accounts describe her singing in the Nicolino tongue, alone on the cliffs, songs that may have been the very last living trace of her people's language and culture anywhere on Earth. Whatever those songs said, they were never recorded, and they died with her. Word of a lone woman living wild on the island eventually reached the mainland as rumor. In 1853, a fur trapper named George Nidiver decided to investigate. He organized a small party and sailed out to San Nicolas Island to see if the stories were true. What they found stopped them in their tracks. A woman, dressed entirely in a robe of stitched sealskin, her hair long and matted, was living alone among the ruins of a village that had been destroyed almost 40 years earlier. She was cautious but not hostile, and after some hesitation she agreed to leave with them. The world she returned to bore no resemblance to the one she'd lost. Arriving in Santa Barbara, she was surrounded by noise, crowds, and unfamiliar smells for the first time in nearly 2 decades. No one could understand her language. She tried gestures, watched mouths, attempted to mimic sounds, but the gap was enormous. At times she sang, and those around her listened to melodies from a culture that by then no longer existed anywhere else. Then came the cruelest twist. 18 years of isolation meant Juana Maria's body had never been exposed to the common diseases of mainland life, and she had no immunity to any of them. Within weeks of her rescue, she fell seriously ill. Despite efforts to treat her, she died less than 2 months after leaving the island, in October of 1853. Her death meant something far larger than the loss of one woman. She was the last living Nicolino. Her language, her songs, and her people's oral traditions ended with her, permanently and completely. Her story didn't end there, though. Decades later, author Scott Odell turned her ordeal into the novel Island of the Blue Dolphins, introducing her story of survival to millions of readers who never knew her real name. Archaeologists and historians have spent years searching San Nicolas Island, trying to locate the actual cave where she is believed to have lived out much of her isolation, sifting through artifacts and oral accounts, hoping to confirm exactly where and how she survived alone for 18 years. To this day, the precise site remains disputed, and no one has ever recovered a single verified recording of the language she sang in on those empty cliffs. Somewhere on that windswept island, the last physical trace of an entire culture may still be waiting to be found.